Welcome to our Art of the Americas test review. Your study guide ominously mentions an essay question, but we've decided to drop it from the test. You already have a take-home cultural context essay, and we figure that's enough. However, I am putting the question we would have asked, an actual AP Art History exam essay question, up on Moodle for extra credit. Here are the works that the essay covers. The subject is the presentation of time. I will open it right after you take your test. You will see plenty of matching questions on the test, as well as a significant number of questions from the review quiz that is open on Moodle. These questions are from a difficult source, but the explanations are helpful not just for these questions, but for the entire unit. Several of our global prehistoric works are actually indigenous art of the Americas, so we decided to revisit some of the questions. August was a long time ago, and the May exam is approaching fast. We looked at this work back in Unit 1, but it's from Mesoamerica, right? What was its likely function and meaning? What material is it made from? Also, which of our previous prehistoric works do and do not show stylized animal figures? That's another question you've seen before. This prehistoric work illustrates a concept central to many indigenous American cultures and one that Ms. Jacobs has mentioned repeatedly. What other prehistoric work also shows unusual faces, that is, a similar content? That's another recycled question. So I'm not going to repeat your excellent presentations. This is a very quick dash through dates and cultures just to help you keep your chronology straight. Chavin de Huantar is one of only two BCE cultures. The other is the Olmecs, which we really only looked at in the context of the Aztecs. The Old Temple dates from around 900 BCE, which makes it later than New Kingdom Egypt, but earlier than archaic Greek culture. What was the function or purpose of this complex? Why was this particular geographic location probably chosen? By the way, I just came across this short video about Chavin de Huantar from the Archaeology channel, and I'm putting the link up on Moodle. The anthropomorphic Lanzón Stela, with its feline head and human body, stands at the center of the Old Temple. Worshippers would encounter it after navigating a labyrinthine maze of tunnels. Imagine seeing it emerge out of the dark. Note that here again we see a mixture of human and animal features combined in a complex and visually confusing style that intermingles figures. And I'm giving it away. The image on the upper left is also from Chavin de Huantar, although it is not a required work. Note that the image changes when it's flipped upside down, but there is still a clear image. I flipped our required image as well, just for fun. Contour rivalry is most associated with the works of this culture, although it shows up in modern geometric art as well. The feline on the Lanzón Stela is almost certainly a jaguar, by the way, a repeated theme in Andean and Mesoamerican art. Here, moving from the top left clockwise, you see a jaguar warrior from an Aztec codex, go shamanism, a row of jaguar heads at Chavin de Huantar, and the jaguar throne from the Mayan site of Chichen Itza. Here is what Wikipedia has to say. Quick, agile, and powerful enough to take down the largest prey in the jungle, the jaguar is the largest of the big cats in the Americas and one of the most efficient and aggressive predators. Endowed with a spotted coat and well adapted for the jungle, hunting either in the trees or water, making it one of the few felines tolerant of water, the jaguar was and remains revered among the indigenous Americans who live closely with the jaguar. All Mesoamerican civilizations prominently featured a jaguar god, and for many, such as the Olmec, the jaguar was an important part of shamanism. Does it remind you of other animals we've studied? Oryx? Lions, bulls, birds, and dragons likewise share the jaguar's ability to thrive in very different environments. We only encounter the Olmec indirectly through the Aztec veneration of this small mask, but it's viewed as the mother culture of Mesoamerica. Note the cleft in the mask's head echoed by the two temples at the top of the Templo Mayor, where it held a treasured spot. Another expression of duality. So what is the mask made of? Where was it found, and what does Aztec possession of this mask and its revered spot indicate? Yaxchitlan was one of many Mayan city-states, notable for its remarkable carved lintels depicting what ceremony and what people conducting the ceremony. The image on the right is our required work, but the image on the left comes first in the narrative. What are Lady Jacques and her husband Shield Jaguar up to in this panel on the left? What does this ceremony represent, and what mythical event does it commemorate? What does this ritual produce, as seen in our required work on the right? How are both works typical of Mayan friezes? What do these sculptures usually contain in combination? What work from an earlier unit has a similar theme and content to the lintel on the right? Hint, what do you see along the top left frame? What are characteristic features of this architecture? What do these works have in common? Think about their common function. Theories about this work are just that, theories. Archaeologists are even still squabbling over which culture created the effigy mound, while Native American groups squabble over which modern-day tribes can claim descent from and or affinity with the mound builders. So, what was the likely function of this large, elaborate work? How did it tie in with astronomy? What was not found inside the giant stake, although they were found nearby? What was the name of the room set aside for ceremonial gatherings? Neither of these pyramids is a required work, but you should be able to identify which one is Mayan and which one is Aztec. What kind of narrative does the stone tell, and what earlier works in our course might tell a similar kind of narrative about a fight among the gods? Why was this temple located where it was? Where was the stone placed on the temple, and why? What is the likely purpose of the portion of this work circled in red? What is the significance of this work's materials? What is the significance of this city and this building, and what animal did the city supposedly represent? How do we know from the Inca portions of the building on top that this was an especially important Inca building? I'm including a huge hint. What else originally indicated the building's importance and got those conquistadors really fired up? What Inca architectural conventions do these walls employ? Hint, you need to know what the term ashlar masonry means. What do both the materials and technique of these works signal about their purpose? What does the wide variety of patterns in the tunic signal about the wearer? What was the presumed function of the stone on the bottom left? What work from an earlier unit had a similar function? What materials are used in this work, and how did the artists acquire these materials? What was this work modeled on? How was this work experienced? Did it make any kind of music? That's a big hint, since I don't think the question I'm referencing was entirely fair. What earlier work from our course is also painted on this kind of material, that is, animal skin? What technique did the artist use in addition to freehand painting? It's discussed in the Khan Academy essay. Why was this subject matter chosen? How was this work organized visually? What do these works have in common? There are several possible answers, but hint, one involves the long arm of the law. What were the artists trying to accomplish for their own culture, and why? What had happened to Puebloan pottery tradition? What work from an earlier unit was produced using a somewhat similar technique? How did the artists reference the ancient Puebloan past? Hint, think about the technique they used and not just the images. So these two works go together in a set of image-based questions. You've seen the questions on the work on the left before, but I stuck them back in again, so it wouldn't hurt to review how and why these works were made, and what earlier works probably inspired the designs, and what the inscription did and did not say. What do these works have in common? Hint, think of the functions they served and did not serve. Why was this work created? Why so many splashes of red? What are the figures hanging from the clothesline on top, and what do they represent? And with that, we move toward the 20th century and the home stretch.